morning, and we'll begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Master, Paramahansa Yogananda, Saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Help us to awaken to our presence in Thee. Help us to be instruments for sharing Thy light and love with all whom we meet. Om. Peace. Amen.
Soul in freedom, nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Rise, O my soul in freedom, nothing to fear anymore. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul in freedom. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. I'd like to go into our meditation this morning with a reading from the very beginning of Autobiography of a Yogi. This is one of the Master's boyhood recollections. But in reading it, we don't want just to be a story about Master. He's actually sharing it with us as an opportunity for all of us to experience the same thing. Lahiri Mahashaya left this world shortly after I had entered. His picture in an ornate frame always graced our family altar in the various cities to which Father was transferred by his office. Many a morning and evening found Mother and me meditating before an improvised shrine, offering flowers dipped in fragrant sandalwood paste. With frankincense and myrrh, as well as our united devotions, we honored the divinity which had found full expression in Lahiri Mahashaya. His picture had a surpassing influence over my life. As I grew, the thought of the Master grew with me. In meditation, I would often see his photographic image emerge from its small frame and take a living form, sit before me. When I attempted to touch the feet of his luminous body, it would change and again become the picture. As childhood slipped into boyhood, I found Lahiri Mahashaya transformed in my mind from a little image cribbed in a frame to a living, enlightening presence. I frequently prayed to him in moments of trial or confusion, finding within me his solacing direction. At first I grieved because he was no longer physically living. As I began to discover his secret omnipresence, I lamented no more. He had often written to those of his disciples who were over anxious to see him, "Why come to view my bones and flesh when I'm ever within range of your katastha spiritual sight?" Let's meditate. Om. Om. Om.
Try standing up today. No, you can sit down. I'm going to stand up so I can see you all. So I wanted to start with that reading from Autobiography of a Yogi because it was current events for me. Earlier this week, I was actually, when I came here for Shiva Ratri, and then when I left, I wanted to read Autobiography of a Yogi again, but I don't have my copy here with me. It's back in the States, so I borrowed one from the library here, which I appreciated very much having. And I just started, I want to read it again. I haven't read it for a couple of years. And I probably read the book at least 20 times over the years, maybe more. And every time you find things, as I'm sure you all appreciated, that, wow, I didn't see that the first time. And so this time I was just reading the first chapter, and that passage about Master in front of Lahiri Mahashaya's picture. And probably most of you already have tuned into that, but for me it was all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened for me. That, I read the book, I found out about Master, and I always felt like he lived back, many years ago, not many, but 30, 40 years ago. And darn, I didn't get a chance to meet him. And of course, I did get a chance to spend time with Swami, which was great. And then Swami, sometimes he would say, it wasn't that easy to be around Master. He said, because there was a personality. You can't be on this plane without a personality. And he said, sometimes it was hard to know how to deal with it. Should I respond to his personality, or was this deeper experience, and you had to work with that. But for people like me and all of you, we don't have a Master in the flesh with a personality. But then you gradually realize that that's its own form of blessing, because we can go, if we go deep in our meditations, we can go straight to that source, and we can start to experience the Master as a living reality, present as fully as he was in 1952, right here in our lives. And that experience is, in a sense, it's the goal of the whole spiritual path. Because what does Master represent? He's simply the instrument for the divine, the instrument for God to manifest in this time and place. And our own experience of life will not be complete until we have that connection. I would imagine it was similar for many of you, that when I was growing up, there was a part of me that just felt incomplete, felt empty, felt unfinished. And it bothered me a lot, especially because I looked around at people around me, and other people looked like, well, they weren't having that big of a problem. They seemed to be doing fine. They were just kind of going out there and making decisions and all that. But I always felt like there's something missing here. And growing up, especially in the West, where there's no tradition of the guru-disciple relationship, I was simply just confused. I just think, what is the matter with this incarnation? And that drove me, literally, on my trip to come here when I was a young man, and because I thought maybe there's something in the East that's going to be the fulfillment for what I'm missing. And of course, immediately, the day after I arrived here, I had someone guided me to the Autobiography of a Yogi. And I could start to, on a very intuitive level, certainly didn't understand what was happening, but on a very intuitive level, I started to sense, this is the missing piece. This is why I've been so unsatisfied with life. And of course, in years and now decades of cultivating that and realizing that, of course, that is it. And it is it for all of us, because we all have that spiritual essence that is our reality. It's our core. And all we need to do, simply, is to get in touch with that and to connect with it and to give ourselves to it in every aspect of our lives, whether it's relationships or money or job or whatever it is. The outer part is not nearly as important as that inner part. If we feel like we're doing it in conjunction with that connection with the divine, we're going to be fine, and we're going to be able to serve on this plane, in this incarnation, make a good use of it. So that brings us to today's topic, which is finding calmness and joy in turbulent times. Well, the turbulent times, if you got to watch on the internet this last week, this was the same topic, of course, for Inner Renewal Week from Ananda Village, and Jyotish and Devi gave some beautiful discourses on it, which if you haven't had a chance to listen to, just go to ananda.org and sign up for free, and you can watch them. But the turbulent times, of course, Jyotish gave a wonderful description of it. We're moving from one age to another in terms of the yugas. We're moving from Kali Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. We're in the early stages of Dwapara Yuga. And there's a lot of tumult to that change. You can look in our own personal histories and you can see it very clearly. My grandfather was born in what's now Croatia and part of what used to be Yugoslavia. He was probably the first person to move out of his town to any extent by some amazing, I never met him. He died the year before I was born. But he, at the young age, in the early 20s, he left his home, his village, his country, and came all the way over to the United States. He ended up being part of the Alaska Gold Rush, which was interesting historically. But just the fact that he moved physically out of that place where for centuries, millennia, nobody had left. People just were born there, and if they went, there's a big town near there, Dubrovnik, which is about 20 miles from there. If they went to Dubrovnik, that was as far as they ever got in that incarnation from where they actually were born. Not that much changed. The farm stayed the same, passed down from generation to generation. Certainly the religion stayed the same. The only religion in their area was the Catholic religion. And if you were born, you were Catholic. You never even thought about being anything else. The last name, was obviously the same, but it's interesting. The last name for my family is Duranja, or in the older way of saying it, Deranja. Well, I visited there once, one long time ago, and as I got closer, I started to see that name on shops, on other people's houses. It turned out it was a very common name in that area. It just simply means skinner, someone who skins animals, I assume. And there must have been a lot of them, and they, procreated. But anyway, their whole reality was in that arena. That's all gone now. I was thinking about all of us here. We're here in Gurgaon. 50 years ago, this place was a bunch of fields, and there wasn't the city that we live in the middle of was probably, it's an excellent example of a Dwapara city, but it's like it's almost like a dream when you look and you see all these high-rises and the metro and the freeways, and all that was, nothing was there. None of us, well, maybe with a couple of young people, none of us was born here. It's a fascinating town because very few people have roots here. It's just like everybody came from someplace else. Very much like the United States, which is a whole country of immigrants. But this turbulence has been building very naturally over the last couple hundred years, and it is our joy or our curse, or whatever you want to say it, to be born in the middle of it. That if you think in the terms of security, at the bottom, the first chakra, security, that's something everybody yearns for. Well, for better or worse, in Kali Yuga, you didn't think too much about it because you were that what you were. You became aware of your world. That world was all that existed, and that you just stayed in that world. So your security was kind of taken for granted. Ours isn't, because we don't have a solid base like that. We've all moved, and we're still moving. We look at the world is moving faster and faster. Jyotisha's first talk is all about AI, and it's fascinating to see that we're just at the beginning. Things are just going to speed up. I mean, he used a beautiful example. He said, going from Kali Yuga to Dwapara Yuga is like water, going from ice to liquid water that's starting to melt. And so that outer security is starting to melt, and we all feel it on some level, and it can be very disconcerting. But it's a blessing also. Everything is always a blessing if we look more deeply, because we're not going to be fooled into thinking that outer security is going to be a realistic solution for us. We know pretty easily that things can change in a moment. I was looking at a documentary earlier this week about the Depression that started in 1929. And they're just showing people who were wealthy, very wealthy, in the space of 24 hours, they lost everything. They lost their home, they lost if they had an automobile in those days. And you see it more and more today, headlines. The man who was president of South Korea a year and a half ago just got sentenced to life in prison. You see it with health a lot of times. People just, you're going along and everything's fine, and all of a sudden, boom, something goes wrong, and all of a sudden your health is gone. And we know that's very possible. We experience it in our lives and our friends' lives all the time. Well, the blessing is that it says, don't look for security in those ways. Don't look for security outwardly. Davy shared a moment that's well worth meditating on because it kind of encapsulates this shift in a very sweet way. So we had the fire at Ananda Village in 1976. The community was 7 years old at that point. People had built some very rudimentary dwellings. But the fire came that day, and in this space of about less than 24 hours, I think it was about 12 hours, all of a sudden, the whole place was burned down. All the private homes were burned. Well, there was one left. One wasn't in the path of the fire, and the following winter, a tree fell on it. So it was like, Divine Mother was being really, boom, okay, we're going to make a statement here. And so Jyotish and Devi had a little home that Jyotish had built for them. They'd been married about 2 years at that point, and their son had been born 11 days earlier. Devi drove to town that morning for a checkup, and on the way back, there was a roadblock on the highway coming into Ananda. She couldn't get through, and so she was traumatized. Finally did get through, said, I lived there, and went in there to the community and realized her home was gone. Not only her home, everything they owned. All her clothes were gone, All their possessions were gone, except Jyotish was in the village that day, and Devi had started to clean the house that day, and she was dusting the altar. So she put all the spiritual things in a little box but then she got called away and couldn't finish. So when Jyotish ran in, that's all he saw was this little box, and that was it. That they had their pictures from the altar, the clothes on their back, and their car. Everything else was gone. And she said that she talked about it in that class, and she said that I was sitting there holding my son, and I was sitting under a tree, and thinking, I need to provide for this child. I need to provide some kind of support for him. But I don't have anything. They didn't have insurance. They didn't have bank accounts that had much in them. And she said, but as I sat there, I realized that what I had learned, she'd been on the path at that point about 6 years, so what I'd learned from being on the path, that there was an inner source to this need for being comforted, being held, being secure. And that's what I needed to provide for my son. And that could happen anywhere. It could happen sitting here under this tree, and whatever happened from here would be fine, because we had the basis for that sense of completion or sense of safety. So it doesn't get more poignant than that. Just a mother trying to comfort her 11-year-old child and realizing that comfort needed to come from within her. It just wasn't something she could provide outwardly. So as we go forward with this challenge, this challenging time, okay, we are in turbulent times, and but that's apparent to everybody. The idea of looking for that inner source, that inner security, becomes the focal point